you'd see people walking upside down on the wall inside. So they used to charge 2 pieces of silver to see the upside down world. They didn't know what was happening. Anybody doesn't understand what I'm talking about?
We do.
Okay.
I understand, but why?
Now this upside down world suggested the box camera. That's where they got it from. Nobody sat down and says, I gotta invent the camera. And that's more bullshit you get in school. That somebody invented the wheel. That was the beginning of the technical age. The wheel. That's another piece of bullshit because it's highly improbable that anybody can sit down and say, I need a wheel. I think a tree fell over on another tree and somebody pulled it and the bottom one rolled. You know what I mean? And that's suggested. You know, everybody doesn't know what I mean by that? That's a highly probable. But if there was one little stone in the way, that would stop it from rolling. So they shaved the bark off the middle. This took a long time. Nobody just sat down and says, gotta have a wheel. And so eventually there were larger units at the end, and when you pulled it, then they put a stone, big heavy objects, and moved them by putting these in front. That's what I mean by nobody invented the wheel. In fact, nobody invented anything. Here's where it comes from. I'll try to answer your questions as you go on. Let's say the guy that said, what about the camera? He said, I'll grant that for you. He's getting angry. I don't know why. He said, what about the movie camera? There's no goddamn movie camera out there. He's getting angry. So I said, in China years ago, I'll try to make a drawing to show you what happened in China. They used to make paper out of bamboo. It's called bamboo paper. And this is a bad drawing of a lot of pages stacked. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah. When you flip the pages.
Okay. They used to bind it together, sometimes with reed, or they bind it around and make a book. This is over 1,500 years ago. But then they used to write the Chinese characters straight up and down, which I'll show you. They used to write their characters up and down on the pages of bamboo. Then they used to make a mark in the corner, another Chinese character, to identify different pages. 30 years after they invented that, some guy happened to flip it fast. You know what happens at the corner mark? It jumps all over the place. Anybody doesn't understand that? So a Chinese artist drew successive pictures of a... We talk at each other. Have a nice day. You know, why a nice day? Have a nice life. Why do you wish him a nice weekend? I don't understand that. Because it's bullshit. There's no meaning at all. When a person says, how are you, Jock? I said, I need $3,000 for an operation. Can you let me have it? He said, no. I said, why do you ask me how I am? The world you live in is just awful. Now, that's why you have psychologists, another bullshit profession. Anybody that tries to adjust you to this system has to be somewhat nuts, including psychiatry. Because they try to adjust you to whatever system they're in. Now, the German scientists fell in line with Hitler. The Italian scientists fell in line with Mussolini. The American scientists fell in line with America. There's no such thing as a scientist. Most of them are specialists. They're optics, chemistry, structures, and they don't know other disciplines. In the future, we will only generate multidisciplinarians, people with knowledge in sociology, social psychology, history of civilization, different cultures, what they believe in different countries, a generalist, you know, so no one can use you. Soldiers are killing machines. I would take every soldier, send them to college free, and teach them how to solve problems. Only problem solving. Imagine if you have millions of soldiers working on problems, bridging the difference between nations and all that. So when I was a kid, and I told you there was millions of people sleeping in every empty lot, and every university had students sitting outside discussing the social problems. Isn't that amazing? Because conditions were different. Conditions were very different. So there were people up on soapboxes talking about mankind united. And I listened to that guy. Then another guy was talking about back to Jesus, back to family values. You know, all these different guys up on soapboxes. Then there was a guy on socialism. I listened to him a while. There was another guy on communism. When I appeared, he says, "Go away, Sunday boy." I says, "Why? I want to hear what you've got to say." He said, "Why?" I said, "Well, I don't believe what the Democrats say about the Republicans, or what the Republicans say about the Democrats, particularly what we say about socialism or communism. I want to hear it from you. You're a communist." He says, "You can stay." So I listened to him for about an hour. Then I says, "I want to ask you 10,000 questions." He said, "You'll have to go to the YCL." I never heard of it. I said, "What's that?" Young Communist League. He gave me an address and I went there. When I got there, there were little girls about 10 years old up to about 17, and they were reading books like Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. They were not like children at all. They were sophisticated. And I said, "My God, how come they don't read Jack and the Beanstalk?" You know, they were dealing with reality. So I stayed there for about an hour, and I raised my hand. I said, "If you get into power, how are you going to prevent corruption?" They said, "Well, we're not corrupt." I said, "I don't doubt that. But if somebody is corrupt, how will you prevent it?" "Well, when that time comes, we'll work on it." I said, "How are you going to house millions of people?" "Well, we'll work on that when that time comes." I said, "Well, let's start a technical branch of the Communist Party, work on mass housing, communications." They said, "You're a deviationist." I never heard the term. "You're deviating from the teachings of Marx." I said, "I'm trying to help. I'd help any organization." They said, "You'll have to leave." So the vice president of the Young Communist League said, "Let's hear him out." And they kicked us both out. Now, so I would say that I would help anybody, any nation. I don't discriminate. They all need clean air, clean water, arable land, good food, and a relevant education. All people need the same thing. They don't need words like democracy and freedom. Whenever you hear those words, democracy and freedom, watch out. If you had it, they tell you to write your congressman. Who the hell is he that you have to write? He should be at the forefront of knowledge, your congressman. Don't you see that when you fly in an airliner, you don't have to write to the pilot and say you've been flying at an angle straighten up. He knows his business. You don't have to write to the navigator, "We're supposed to be going to Hawaii. It's the iceberg. Where are we going?" And the navigator says, "You don't need to write." So your congressmen are stupid businessmen and lawyers. They know nothing about how society operates. Obama, is he a nice guy? Probably. But he doesn't know what to do. Really doesn't. General Motors is failing because they can't make a product as good as Toyota. And if you give them money without looking at a blueprint of what they propose to do, and if people don't have the money to buy cars, how the hell are they going to buy cars, even if you gave them money? So the system is insane. It's going to collapse all over the world, not just here. What the Venus Project is about is not about politics, who's corrupt, who's paying off who. That's what the liberal does. Free Speech TV tells you about the liberal and the guys in government that are corrupt, but they have no solutions. What do you do about it? And that's where Zeitgeist came in. When the first film came out, Peter Joseph was bombarded by phone calls. "You're right, what can we do about it?" He said, "I don't know." So Roxanne sent him our book called The Best That Money Can't Buy. It's a moneyless society. He read it and he flew out here right away and he shot for days. And he made a film on these. He says, "You're the only one I've ever heard of in the world that offers a way out." So I said, "Well, what about all the other problems that society is confronted with?"